Hello, Louis. I don't know if he nicked the Twitch, but I do know that I can't log in without him because the two-factor authentication on it is on his phone. So if he's not online and available, I can't log in. But that's okay. It's not. It's not like I care. I don't mind. I will confess I didn't watch Jeddah back, but I did hear that it was complete carnage. And just looking at the standings makes that very clear because Melvin finished outside of the podium, which makes it very obvious that it was a chaotic race. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, no doubt now that I'm back, TNK is going to DNF again, because that's usually how it goes for him. But yeah, Mr. Chris leading the standings in the Alpine. Yeah, he's just, I'm not going to lie, he's just so far ahead of everyone else in terms of raw pace. Oh, hello, Spaled. How are you doing, buddy? I usually stream this league's comms on their Twitch channel, but I'm unable to access their Twitch channel today for reasons. So we're here instead. But their Twitch channel is DLR_TTV_official. So if you want to go and follow that, then please feel free. I'm sure they'd appreciate it. But anyway, here we are in Austria. A fantastic track for racing. Always wondered how these realistic leagues get along. Well, you're about to find out. We are here at the Red Bull Ring in Austria for another round of the DLR Realistic Division, season number 9. It's round 3. We've had Australia, which was fairly uncontroversial given the circumstances of it being Australia and a season opener, and then Jeddah, which I'm hearing, because I wasn't commentating that one, I'm hearing that was an absolute carnage fest. So it'll be interesting to see how everyone gets on here in Austria, which tends to be a crazy close track for racing, but obviously in realistic cars it's going to be a little different than what you usually see in equal performance leagues. But yeah, so it is Mr. Chris who leads the driver's standings in the Alpine. Is he here today? Yes, he is. And he's had a second place in Australia and a win in Jeddah last week. He's on 43 points compared to Melvin, the defending champion in the Red Bull. He has 34 points after a bit of a disaster in Jeddah last week. Then it's Melvin's teammate Heiner, who's had a double run of third places in the first 2 weeks of the season. He's got 30 points, and then a little way behind to Hugo in the Williams, who is 4th in the championship and has 20 points. A very impressive start for him. And he is here today as well. 19 cars on the grid, fantastic to see. In terms of the constructors, it is Red Bull who lead, but only by 3 points to Alpine. It doesn't look like it's going to be such a close constructors championship as it was last season. We had 3 teams all fighting for the constructors title down to the very last race last season. It doesn't look like that this time. Although I'm sure Ferrari will bounce back, but they've already off to a pretty shocking start, and Red Bull and Alpine have been right on the money. So here we are. We've got, I'm going to go with Jürgen. I'm going to go with Jürgen as in Jürgen Klopp. But the driver can feel free to correct me if that's completely wrong later on. But Jürgen has invalidated, unfortunately. We now have a full grid of drivers. Another one just joined. So we have 20 drivers on the grid. Gyro's going to set the first lap of the session. It's a 105.9 in his tractor. And then we've got more coming across the line very shortly. It's going to be very difficult to keep up. We've got a full grid of cars at Austria. There's going to be a lot of drivers on laps at the same time. That's SC just coming across the starter lap. Steph just gone into P2, 1.2 seconds behind. Is that Hugo coming around the last corner? It is. 4th in the Drivers' Championship and goes to provisional pole at 105.8. Beats Gyro by just under a 1/10 of a second. But there's a Mercedes coming across the line. Is that Giuseppe Elsack? It is, so he's not. He's just starting a lap. There's also the McLaren of MF Boom coming down towards the last few corners. Can he challenge the Williams of Hugo at the top? Hugo been on fire so far this season. MF Boom, though, takes provisional pole with a 105.1, significantly faster than Hugo, and then TNK blows them out the water in the much faster Mercedes with a 104.3. And in fact, Heine is 0.3 off TNK. MF Boom only half a second off a Red Bull. That is a solid effort from MF Boom. The defending champ shows everyone how it's done with a 104.2, but still, I think there's a lot of pace to be found out here. And I'd expect these guys to be going into the sort of maybe even mid 103s. I'm sure there's a lot of pace still to come from these guys, and perhaps our current championship leader, where is he? There he is. Mr. Chris can show us that sort of pace in his Alpine, coming through Sector 1 now. We've got someone else just improved. That was Giuseppe Elsack to P5. MF Boom and Frisk Fruit 4 and 5. I know the McLaren is better now, so that obviously changes things a bit, but still very solid efforts from both of the Papaya drivers. Mr. Chris through Sector 2. You said it right, Jürgen, it is. Oh, what a guess. Perfect. Thank you very much for confirming that. I hope you enjoy the stream, Jürgen. And good luck out there. Try not to invalidate your next one, although it is very difficult to not do so around here. Mr. Chris, though, coming to the last few corners. SC goes into P4 in his Aston Martin. What can Mr. Chris do? He's going to nearly invalidate the last corner. He would have lost some time there, but still goes to provisional pole. A 104.1, but still not dipping into the 103s. Again, I definitely think that these guys are going to get into the 103s, especially Melvin and Mr. Chris will get there. I'm sure they will. The rest may struggle. We don't have Hellfire again today, though, which is a huge shame. But instead we've got Bundy and Ricciardo in the Ferraris. Is JPB supposed to be in the Ferrari as well? I should double check the lineups, because I'm sure Ferrari kept their lineups. Let's see, Ferrari. Yeah, Hellfire and JB. So 2 reserves. Neither Ferrari driver can make it today, so their abysmal start to the season may well continue unless Bundy and Ricciardo can put forth a masterclass of a performance for the Scarlet team. Through the last couple of corners comes Bundy. for his first lap of the session. Don't invalidate the last corner. Very easy to do. He's got Charles Leclerc's helmet. Round the final corner he comes. It's not going to be a Charles Leclerc lap, though. Only P9 for Bumdy. Over a second off Mr. Chris. And, well, the lap times are very close, but it is Austria. And you would expect exactly that around here. Zippy down in P11 in the other Aston. SC doing a great lap there. Up to P5, but still quite a way off the top runners. But at the moment, it's Mr. Chris, Melvin, and TNK in a league of their own. 3/10 gap between TNK and Heine. It's not much on most tracks, but on this track, when you've got 9 corners, it is a massive gap. 3/10 is on this track is essentially, I would say, like 8 or 9/10 at Spa. In terms of similarity of how far the gap is. We've got Ricciardo in the other Ferrari going up to P7 in the meantime. Gyro improves to P16 as Jürgen comes through the final few corners in the Williams. DRS going to be enabled now. To the line, it's a 105.2. That's not a bad effort at all from Jürgen. Doesn't invalidate this time. And look at that. He's only a 1/10 of a second off of P7. Yeah, we'll see if he can actually find that time. Zippy, evening in the chat. Currently in P14, so not an ideal first lap from Zippy, but I'm assuming you've got plenty of room to improve there. Everyone, I think, just filing into the garage at this point. Steph definitely not on a lap. Flop starting a lap perhaps, or perhaps just ended one. What about Bartia in the Haas? No, Bartia not on a lap. Let's see Flop across the Sector 1 line. Heine goes to pole. That's out of nowhere. Flop is improving, but Heine, a 104.129 from the Red Bull driver. That is very, very unexpected, but fair play to him. Fantastic lap from Heine to get himself into provisional pole, and it has now become a 4-horse race up at the top between Heine, Mr. Chris, Melvin, and TNK. It's, like I say, 2/10 is quite a big gap still, but it's... When you're talking about these top drivers, they're going to find that time. 6/10 to SC is an absolutely monumental gap. So it does seem like we have a top 4 clearly here today. But we'll see as the rest of the laps come in, of course. Flop coming to the line. Is he going to improve in the AlphaTauri? No, a 106.7, quite a way off in the end. Bartia coming across to start his next lap as well. Josep Halsack in Sector 3 at the moment, just started the final sector, but was improving in the middle. And this could be a major improvement for Josep Halsack. Could see himself into P5 here if he can nail this final sector, but he hasn't done. He's invalidated at the last corner. That's such a shame. A 105.0 would have put him into P6. He's going to be very disappointed with that. We've also got MF Boom in the McLaren. He's not improving right now. In fact, into the pits he comes. What about SC in Sector 3 at the moment? No! Hello! Cutting straight across the pit lane line to come into the pits. I'm not sure that's legal, but I cannot say I'm familiar with all the DLR rules. Melvin, there we go. That's more like what I was expecting today. A 103.7, much better, and the defending champion really proving, or really laying the hammer down for everyone else now. That's the time to beat. You've got to get into the 103s if you want to be competitive today. Mr. Christo could be the man to do that. He's on an outlap at the moment, as is TNK in the Mercedes. Just starting a lap, but is that an invalidation at the last corner? No, he's gotten away with it just about, but he will have lost some time slowing down there to avoid that invalidation. Through turn 1 he goes. Hits the apex and down towards turn 2, and then 3 is the braking zone. Turn 2 is the kink for some goddamn reason. Steph has rejoined, which is good to see in the Haas. TNK, though, coming through Sector 2. DRS open down towards turn 4 now. Brake hard just after the 100-meter board. And now heading down towards turn 5 and then 6 and 7. The two left-handers can be tough to get right. It can be easy to go a bit wide on those corners, trying to find the limit. TNK hasn't done that. He's 1.5 tenths up in sector 2, but it's nowhere near enough to challenge Melvin, but could see him onto the front row at this stage. Through the final couple of corners he goes. Very easy to invalidate the last corner. Doesn't do that. Just about stays in track limits. Great effort from TNK at the end there. A 104.0. Not quite enough to get into the 103s, but it is enough for the front row at the moment. But Mr. Chris could beat that. He does, but he's invalidated. And that 103.9 will mean nothing. And in fact, he must have invalidated at the last corner as well, because he's also got a red track for his next lap. So unfortunate for the championship leader. Frisfoot just slowing down to let someone through. He's gone up to P5, so that's a good effort from the McLaren driver. MCL not on a competitive lap. Neither is Bumdy, has invalidated. Jürgen the same. Hugo, though, coming through turn 1, somehow P4 in the Drivers' Championship. He's been driving very well so far in these first couple of weeks. Just about 100th of a second up in Sector 1, but Sector 1 is just one corner. Jürgen's retired. Oh, Jürgen has binned it at turn 1. It's so easy to do. That's a real shame for the Williams driver, as that's looking like a pretty competitive lap time that he did earlier. But into the wall he goes, and he's going to have to pray that not too many cars overtake him in the standings. But this is Austria, and those times can come tumbling down. As if he says he's washed, he's got nothing. Oh dear. Not ideal. But, you know, the problem with Austria is it may be a really short track, but that means you have to get everything right. If you get 1 or 2 corners wrong, suddenly you're way behind everyone else, because there's so few corners and so few places where you can gain any time. If you make a mistake, you can't really gain it back, and it's really difficult to gain any time at all if you get a decent lap in to start with. So it's quite a tough track in qualifying, this one. In the race it's easier because you have the DRS train, it's easier to keep up, but in qualifying it can be really difficult to find the limits. A very demanding qualifying track. As MCL comes through Sector 2, is he improving at the sector line? Yes, by 3.5 tenths. Could see him up into P5, which is the best of the rest position at the moment. Aston 1920, says SC. Well, we'll see. As here comes MCL round the final corner, invalidates though at the final corner. That is a real shame. Would have been half a second up and easily into that best of the rest position, but just pushed it a bit too far in that final corner. He's going to be gutted with that. Josep Helsack coming to the end of Sector 1, 2.5 tenths up. Sector 1 is just one corner, folks. So that is a massive improvement from the Mercedes driver. We'll see if he can hold it out for the rest of the lap now. It's always nervy knowing you have fantastic turn 1, because it's really hard to nail turn 1. But then you've also got to see out the rest of the lap once you do nail it. So Josep Helsack will be hoping he can do that. He doesn't look like he's on the same level as his teammate today, but he has lost a bit of time in Sector 2, and nearly a tenth in fact. So definitely some nerves there for the Mercedes driver after seeing that split at Sector 1 through the last couple of corners. Is he going to invalidate at turn 9? No, he's not. Down towards the line, DRS open. It's going to be a 105.0. It is a slight improvement up to P8 for the Mercedes second driver today. Which he won't be too disappointed about, but look who's in P5. Deadshot in the Alfa Romeo. I haven't seen Deadshot before, but wow, that's a fantastic effort. P5, best of the rest as it stands in the Alfa Romeo. We'll see if he can keep it. There's 2 minutes left in the session. I don't think he's got quite enough time to go out again and do another, but it will be very close. Frisk through, 2 tenths up nearly in Sector 1. So that's 5th place spot might not last too long for Deadshot. Swift looks like he's on a decent effort. SC as well, the Red Bull driver from last season, now in the Aston Martin. Bumdy retired from the session. That's another turn 1 incident. Zippy says crazy impeding. So I think the stewards will have quite a busy night tonight as SC heads down towards turn 4. I don't understand how that kink down towards turn 3 is a corner, but the one down towards turn 4 isn't, as SC gets a massive snap out of turn 4. Is going to have to slow down and go again. But what about Frisk Fruit? Does improve up to P5. Best of the rest at the moment for Frisk Fruit. We'll see if he can keep it, though, as now the big guns are starting their laps. The top 4, Melvin, TNK, Mr. Chris and Heine, all either on laps or on out laps. We've got TNK being tailed by the Alpine of MCL, who's just trying to get the slipstream, but might end up regretting the dirty air through Sector 2 and 3. Here comes TNK, though. I don't think he'll be too distractive having the Alpine right behind him, but it might be a little annoying to see in your mirrors. He's 2 tenths up. He's going to need to find 1 more tenth in Sector 3. It's 3 corners, Sector 3, but you can find so much time, especially at the last corner, if you really nail it. But it's so easy to invalidate. TNK round the final corner and does invalidate. DRS open down to the line. It would have been a 103.8. It wouldn't have quite been enough to unseat Melvin, but it would have really secured his P2 position at the moment. But Mr. Chris is on a lap, 1.5 tenths up at the moment. What about Melvin? He's into the pits, so he's not going to improve. It's all on Mr. Chris and Heine to see if they can beat him. Mr. Chris round the final corner in the Alpine. Can he get on the front row? The driver's standings leader at 103.9 does get on the front row. TNK will be gutted he invalidated that one, because he definitely would have been on that front row. I don't think Heine's going to unseat them unless he has an absolutely incredible final sector. He might even unseat TNK from P3 here, so the Mercedes driver is going to be extra disappointed, and he does, up to P3 for Heine. It's a 1-3 for Red Bull. TNK is going to be gutted to be on the second row. But that's it for everyone else. It looks like, who's that? Yeah, SC into the wall after the line, thankfully. But that looks like qualifying complete. Melvin on pole position once again, with Mr. Chris alongside him. I think we might get used to that front row as the season goes on. And then Heine and TNK not that far behind, but TNK should have been up there in P2. A fascinating qualifying session in Austria. We have the top 4, Melvin, Chris, Heine and TNK well ahead of the best of the rest, Frisk Fruit, who's going to lead the rest of the pack. It's going to be a very, very interesting race. I think the top 4, if they can break out of DRS early on, it's going to be very much those 4 and then everyone else just following each other. In a very long DRS train, but it is Frisk in P5, he'll be happy. Deadshot in a very, very impressive P6. SC in P7 in the Aston. And then MF Boom, Giuseppe Helsack and Ricardo make up the rest of the top 10, with MCL in P11. Then Bumdy, Jürgen in P13, which he'll probably be a bit disappointed with after his crash. Zippy, Bartia, Hugo, Hotline Blang, that's a great name, Gyro, Steph and Flop makes out the final spot on this 20-car full grid in Austria. So anyone in the chat, can we have a prediction on number of safety cars we think we're going to have here? Austria with a full grid in a realistic cars. Going to be an interesting one. I'm going to predict. I would go 3, but I have good trust in this division. 2 minimum, says Louis. I think that is reasonable. Mr. Chris has left the session, so hopefully he can get back in. Hopefully we won't have to do a lobby reset, because That would be a lot. But it might happen, because I think Mr. Chris will be incensed if he can't get back in. Here we go, though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. He's back, and we're underway for the Austrian Grand Prix. It's a great start for Mr. Chris's AI, who leads the race now into turn 1, but he's going to get swamped as everyone overtakes his ghosted car. The two Red Bulls side by side through turn 1. Heiner into the lead of the race down the inside of Melvin, and he leads the Austrian Grand Prix now from third on the grid. Melvin's going to have to follow. Deadshot's been disqualified for not getting off the grid. He hasn't even started the race. We've got several cars side by side through turn 3. A lot of action going on. Deadshot's been disqualified after that amazing quali. TNK's down to P19. He's had an incident. It's definitely me. I'm so sorry, TNK. I've cursed him as Naz Zippy, nearly going round in the Aston Martin. I think making contact with MCL into turn 4. But he's being swamped by both Williams now as Jürgen goes down the inside. But everyone filing through Sector 2 fairly comfortably now. They're side by side between Friss and Hotline Blang. And the Alfa Romeo driver is ahead. And now Friss under pressure from SC. It's been a terrible start for the McLarens. Oh, sorry, just for Friss Fruit. MF Boom's up there in P4. Meanwhile, as Heiner sets the fastest lap, this massive DRS train begins in 1 lap's time. But MF Boom, what a start for him. Let's get some detail on there. So we've got Melvin and Heiner who've just swapped positions. Melvin back into the lead of the race now as Heiner looks to the inside but doesn't send it. I don't know if they're doing team orders. We'll find out. TNK gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Just to add insult to injury there. I really do have to stop cursing TNK. You're so right in the chat there. Hugo is round as well at turn 3. I think I cursed him as well by saying he's had a fantastic season so far. Zippy's got no front wing. And, well, it's been a disastrous start for several drivers, and I do sympathise. I lost a championship round here for an incident that wasn't my fault a couple of weeks ago. It's this track does not bring back good memories. But for Melvin and Heiner, it could bring back very, very good memories in a week's time, because they are running 1 and 2. Melvin sets the fastest lap now as Heiner trails behind, but Heiner will have the DRS. They're out of DRS range of Giuseppe Pelsac, who's made his way into P3. He's up 6 positions, as is Bundy and Hotline Blank. Steph up 7 positions, and then those who've had terrible starts are Friss Fruit, TNK, and of course Deadshot, who's been disqualified. But they're going to need a safety car to get back into this one. Don't worry, lads, I'm pretty sure there's going to be one at some point. I'd be very surprised if there wasn't. But Mr. Chris looks like he's struggling to keep up here. I wonder if there's damage to that Alpine. I can't see any visible damage, and I'm sure he would have pitted if it was anything other than superficial. But around Sector 2 they go. This is a lovely helicopter shot. I'm just staying with Mr. Chris to see if he's got damage. Nothing visual on the Alpine, so we'll have to see. But he does seem to be struggling for pace at the moment compared to what he did in qualifying as he comes around the final corner, and DRS open just behind this Mercedes. Surely he's not going to send one into turn 1. He looks to the outside as Giuseppe Pelsac places his car expertly there on the entry, not letting Mr. Chris go either way round him. But now the Alpine's going to have the DRS. The two Red Bulls have swapped positions again. I don't think they're going to fight each other too hard. They're just going to hope they can pull away from the rest of the pack as there's a bit of contact as Mr. Chris and Sack go side by side, and MF Boom trying to get involved as well and make it 3 wide on the run to turn 4. He's just going to sit behind and wait, but no, he's going to go down the inside now of 2 cars. Goes MF Boom. Can he make the move? I think there was contact with Mr. Chris there, but he's up to P4. The Alpine driver back up to 3rd place, and Giuseppe Alsax just lost 2 positions in 1 straight. He's going to be gutted with that. But the 2 Ferraris now 6 and 7. What a start for them after a very poor qualifying by the standards of the Scarlet team after last season. But they're looking to make up for that very quickly. Jürgen as well up to P8 after he crashed in qualifying when he could have had a much better time. SC's already got a 3-second time penalty. That's the first of the evening, and it will not be the last, I guarantee it. As everyone now filing through sector 1, the top two Red Bulls now 4 seconds ahead of Mr. Chris. They are so comfortable out there at the front now. Lap 5 of 36, they do not look like they're going to be challenged. There will be a safety car at some point, like I said, I'm pretty sure, but we'll see when that comes and whether it will benefit the Red Bulls or not. As the two Hasses now swap positions, Barcia up to P11. Let's have a look at tyres now. So almost the entire grid on mediums, and I'm pretty sure Zippy and Hugo would likely have started on the mediums as well. Very interesting call. I thought there would be a more even split of tyres, but everyone deciding the medium's better to start on, except for Hotline Blang, who started on the soft tyres in his Alfa Romeo, which may explain why he got such a good start. We've got someone into the pits already. I'm not sure who that was. It was MCL. Is there damage to the Alpine, I wonder? We'll see if he replaces his wing in the pit. Flop's gotten a time penalty now. That's the next one to get one. For track limits, is there a new front wing waiting? Yes, there is for MCL. As he gets that replaced. Thank you, Quincy. I do appreciate it. But I'm not really available on Tuesdays, I'm afraid, but do feel free to DM me if it's at a different time, but I'm not going to negotiate while I'm commentating another league, you understand. But I do appreciate the compliment, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the race. We're on lap 6 of 36 now. We've got Sapel Sack and MF Boom going side by side, and the Mercedes gets himself ahead, but the McLaren looks to the inside of the penultimate corner. There's a huge bit of contact further back. I think that's just SC is round in the Aston. He hasn't caused any kind of safety car, but he has lost a bunch of positions. He's gone round at turn 6 rather. As they head down towards turn 1, these two, Giuseppe Helsack and MF Boom. Mr. Chris has flown away from these two. He is comfortably in P3, and the Red Bulls are comfortably about 4 seconds ahead of him. But the Mercedes and the McLaren and the two Ferraris fighting, and there's contact. MF Boom has hit the back of Giuseppe Helsack. He's let both Ferraris through, and Jürgen as well in the Williams has gone through. Up to P5, the dizzying heights of the top 5 for the Williams driver. He's having a fantastic race so far, as he has a bit of a slide through turn 4 though. But it must have been like the parting of the Red Sea for the Williams there, as all those cars seem to just slow down through turn 1, and he just took the right line and got down the inside of all of them. After the contact between these two, who are now, I think, fittingly at the back of the pack, but it's tough on Giuseppe Helsack, who's down to P7 now at the back of this DRS train. And around here, it's very difficult to get yourself up positions when you're in this kind of DRS train. Mr. Chris now gets himself a 3-second time penalty for track limits, trying desperately to catch up to the Red Bulls, who's just swapped positions again. But yeah, Mr. Chris, that could well come back to bite him if there's a late safety car later on in this race, as Giuseppe Helsack now goes to the inside of the Ferrari of Bumdy. He can't quite get the move to stick through turn 3, but he's going to go for the run down towards turn 4. Flop gets another penalty further back, but here comes the Mercedes. He's got the outside line, but he gets on the curb, and that's not going to help his run through turn 4. And there's contact, there's huge contact as he tries to go down the inside of Bumdy, and Bumdy just... Well, I'm not really sure whose fault that was. I cannot call that from the commentary box on a first viewing. That is a tough incident for the both of them. But Giuseppe Helsack into the wall and out of the race, and his race has gone from fantastic to... well, over in just over 1.5 laps. He's going to be absolutely gutted. Bumdy's not going to be happy either. He's almost certainly going to feel like it was Giuseppe Helsack's fault. But Mr. Chris into the pits, taking the opportunity. The two Red Bulls stay out. And I wonder If that's on purpose or if they'd already gone past the pit lane, they may well have done. They were that far ahead, but I don't think so. So I think that is an executive decision from the Red Bulls. Mr. Chris exits the pits in P9. Yeah, just about ahead of SC as the Aston Martin exits turn 1. Jürgen in as well. For a set of the soft tyres. So that's going to be a medium, soft, medium strategy, I believe, from Jürgen. I will say the mediums around here really start getting difficult to drive after about 15, 16 laps. So it's quite a stint on Jürgen's hands on both tyres there, if that is indeed the plan. But there will most likely be another safety car at some point, and perhaps that is what he's banking on. Same with Bundy. Zippy has gone onto the intermediate tyres. That has got to be a terrible mistake, because that sky is very much... I was going to say the sky is very much blue, but it isn't. It isn't blue, it's grey. Maybe Zippy has called this, but I think even if it is going to rain, it's too early to go onto the inters, surely. And that could possibly be why Bundy and Jürgen have decided for the soft tyres, as they've seen the rain coming. But I'm not sure. I haven't been given any intel on the weather, so... I'm just going to have to call it as I see it. The sky looks grey, that is all I'll say. It doesn't look as blue as when we started, so we'll see if it does start pouring it down with rain, and Zippy will go from looking like he's made a terrible error to being a genius. But Louis is absolutely right. If he stays out too long, those inters are going to degrade very, very quickly. He has stayed out. He's not come back in, so he's happy on those tyres. He has made that decision on purpose, believe it or not. He thinks the rain is coming, but if that safety car comes in and the rain has not arrived, Zippy is in big, big trouble. As those inters are going to wear down very, very quickly in the dry conditions. It is the two Red Bulls, 1 and 2. Neither of them have stopped. Ricciardo is up to P3 in the meantime in the Ferrari. MF Boom in 4th after his contact with Giuseppe Elsac earlier. Well, the Mercedes is out of the race, so he's going to feel extra aggrieved by that if it was indeed Boom's fault. It did look like he just hit the Mercedes from behind, an unfortunate one. But if that is the case, then MF Boom is going to have a trip to the stewards on his hands after this one. By the way, the two Hasses, Bartio and Steph, from I think basically last and second last, it wasn't far off that for them. They are now in 5th and 6th after the pit stops are done. If it does rain very shortly, they're in a fantastic position, as is anyone who didn't pit here. Mr. Chris, if it does rain, he's going to be kicking himself for pitting. But if he can get those tyres into their working window and use that 8-lap advantage over the rest of the grid who've stayed out, he could be in business here. Hotline Bling has also stayed out on the softs, and we have another driver. It's the two Aston Martins have both gone onto the inters. They think the rain is coming very, very soon. Zippy's gone onto a fresh set of inters to avoid the problem that you were talking about, Louis, in the chat. But we'll see. Is that rain going to arrive in time for the Astons? This could be either the greatest strategy call in DLR history or an absolutely horrific error, and the safety car being in this lap makes it seem like it's going to end up being the latter. Heiner and Melvin are going to lead the grid down towards the line now. They can go anytime they like as soon as the safety car goes into the pit, which it will do very shortly. But Zippy might not even be able to catch up here. He's only at turn 4. Everyone else is at turn 6, sorry. Going round turn 7 now. It's going to be very close to see if he can catch back up again. The safety car's coming in. I think Zippy will just about be fine, but there's still no rain on the screen at the moment. And here comes Heiner. He's going to send it now down towards the last corner. He has gone And Melvin has stayed with him, of course, but Ricciardo has been caught out a little bit there. 7/10 back already in the Ferrari as they all hurtle down towards turn one. There's a bit of side swiping at the back there as Mr. Chris goes down the inside of two cars on the run to turn one. Fantastic move from the championship leader. Up to P7 he goes. Jürgen as well, making his way up on those fresh soft tyres. Flop being overtaken by Hotline Blang. The two Aston Martins are going to fall further and further back the longer it doesn't rain, and even when it does rain it'll take a few laps for it to get into that intermediate window. I think they made a terrible error here. But Jürgen now around the outside of Flop up to P8. Is he going to make the move? Yes, he is. Flop breaks a lot earlier and in fact has contact with his teammate by the looks of it. Gets the 5-second penalty for corner cutting, which looked unjust. But look at this gaggle of cars down towards turn 6. This could end in tears. Very, very easily. Side by side between Flop and MCL, sorry, as they go through, but they're all single file again now. Mr. Chris already up to P4 again. It looks like he's played a blinder here for pitting on those fresh mediums. If it had rained, he'd be in trouble, but it hasn't. And here he goes now on Ricciardo down towards turn one. Look at the better exit he gets, but now it's raining, so he's got to make these mediums work in the next couple of laps before the inters come into play. SC and Zippy now could be in a massively important position here. They're already on the inters. They don't have to stop again. Bumdy and Frisfruit have come in as soon as they've seen the rain, which I think is a little too early. This is a short track, so it's not like Spa where as soon as you see the rain you have to pit, because by the time you've gone round the lap it's torrential. This track you can go around a couple laps and the rain will slowly change the track conditions, so I think that might still be a bit early for them. But Gyro and Steph fighting the Haas driver on the outside of turn 6 as Hugo finds his way through. Jürgen now with a 3-second time penalty as he goes down the inside of the Haas down towards turn 8. He makes the move stick. Great stuff from him, but he's gone wide on the exit, and I wonder if Bartje will have a problem with that. And wide at last corner as well. But here comes Mr. Chris down the inside of Melvin into turn 1. The two championship rivals fighting through turn 1, but Mr. Chris, the Red Bull's no match for him on those 8-lap fresher medium tyres, but the rain is coming down. Mr. Chris knows he has to make this work now before the inters come into play. Here he goes, ERS deployed down the inside of Heine. He goes, they're both using their ERS, but Mr. Chris is going to get the better X out of the corner anyway, and he is into the lead of the Austrian Grand Prix. Fantastic decision from Mr. Chris to pit onto those fresh mediums. It was a huge risk, but he made it work with some daring moves, and he's into the lead, and he's going to hope this rain doesn't last too much longer. That 14 of 36, we're not even halfway through this race. Melvin sticking with his teammate, but Mr. Chris already a 1.5 second advantage in half a lap. Melvin's come into the pits, the championship defending champion. Coming in for the inters. Jürgen gets himself a penalty further back in the Williams as well, but most drivers staying out. Melvin comes in quite early there. Ricciardo and TNK follow him in. Not surprised TNK has, given the race he's had so far. But the two Aston Martins not actually profiting as much as they would have hoped. And in fact, Zippy's back into the pits for a fresh set. So something must have gone wrong there, as now Jürgen on the warpath in that Williams, down the inside of the McLaren he goes. And I don't think MF Broom's going to have anything to say about that. Making the move is Jürgen, and MCL up to P6 in the meantime as well in his Alpine. All filing through sector 2 and on towards the final sector now. Gyro right behind Bartje in the meantime. Mr. Chris with a 2.6 second lead now already. We're approaching the halfway point of this race. It is still raining. It doesn't look quite damp enough for inters yet. It still looks like slick tyres. But over half the grid are on the Inters already. I really think it's a mistake. I think they've come in too early, but it's difficult to tell in the commentary box. It'll be easier for them to know on the track when the grip is coming. But Gyro gets through on Barcia. Who's that that's round? It's MF Boom at turn 1 in the McLaren, and he's going to be gutted with that after he's had a brilliant race so far, bar the contact that he had with Giuseppe Elsack into turn 3. But that's about 6 or 7 seconds he's lost there. He doesn't have damage by the look of it, but so easy to do at that corner. And now Melvin, the two old teammates, the two previous Red Bulls from last season, now SC in the Aston Martin, and Melvin, the defending champion. No love lost between them as SC sends it down the inside, and there's a bit of contact between the former teammates, but Melvin gets his way through, and SC eventually has to concede it. But he has made progress, in fact, because Melvin, of course, was leading this race, and SC was... He had to already overtake SC, so definitely some profit by the Aston Martin driver. Obviously not Zippy, as he has had to stop again. Hugo into the pits now. Heiner as well in the Red Bull. The top 5 now staying out. As MF Boom stays out as well in the McLaren, deciding to go one more lap after a spin. Deadshot's left the session now, but he was already disqualified. As now Hugo into the pits for a set of soft tyres. That's surely an error. That's got to be a pit stop error from him. I think he selected the wrong tyres, or maybe not. Maybe he thinks the rain's going to stop. Who knows? But it does look damp out there, and I think we might see him come straight back into the pits. But luckily for him, we have a VSC. I'm not sure what it's for, but Zippy's going to take advantage of it to pit again. I think that's his 4th, maybe 5th pit stop of the evening. And yeah, it's not gone too well for him, unfortunately. But this VSC is out, and this gives Mr. Chris the perfect opportunity to pit now for the intermediate tyres. And he's going to come out, I think, well ahead of Melvin, but he nearly had the biggest moment, the biggest bottle I've ever seen from a championship leader. He almost dropped it into the pit lane, just about held it. That would have been a heart-in-mouth moment for the Alpine driver. But he's out the pits. He will have gained some delta thanks to the VSC as well. And he's going to be well ahead of Heiner as he exits on those green-walled tyres. What's the gap as they come out the pits? It's about 4 seconds. That's how much he's ahead. But he was about that far ahead anyway. He was about 3 seconds, I think. So he's only gained, what, maybe half a second to a second on Heiner thanks to the VSC. So it wasn't that big of an advantage. But Heiner getting past MF Boom very easily, who's still on the mediums, and now it definitely is too late. It should have been it should have boxed either the last lap or the lap before. Jürgen still on those softs. He's going to be happy to be leading the race. I mean, he's led a lap in the Austrian Grand Prix in the realistic division in a Williams, and no one can take that away from him. Melvin getting past MF Boom as well, up to P5. The McLaren Club? What am I talking about? I got a notification for football on my phone and my voice got confused. The McLaren team, McLaren team driver, finally coming in for a stop for the intermediate tyres. But look who stayed out. Gyro and Jürgen have still stayed out on the slick tyres. Surely they've got to come in this lap, right? MCL gets a penalty now. They think it's going to stop raining. The safety car is out, though. Someone's retired. I'm not sure where. I can't quite see where that is. I can't see a dot on the mini-map that's stopped. So I'm not sure where that's happened, but Zippy's out of the race. And I'm not sure how that's happened, but Jürgen is going to be able to stop for the intermediate tyres under the safety car. It's great for him, as well as Gyro. So maybe staying out wasn't as bad of an idea after all, but they've got very, very lucky. And finally, my YouTube chat is back on the screen. I don't know why it wasn't happening, so There we go. Got to wait for DRS to turn off. There's a chance this clears up before it gets too bad. Long day, Zippy retired in the pits. So I'm not sure why the safety cars come out then. Maybe just bad timing in terms of there was an incident somewhere else as well. But Jürgen finally into the pits. What? Jürgen gets a penalty for speeding, but Gyro stayed out. Gyro on the hard tyres has stayed out. Hugo is still soldiering on those soft tyres. Is this rain only temporary? Is it going to clear up later on? In a couple of laps, while Hugo's into the pits, will you give it a go as you wouldn't have gained anything doing anything else? Yeah, of course. It's a fair decision. You've got to go for the gamble if you've got nothing else to play for. But Hugo's coming in. What tyres? It's the Inters. So I'm not really entirely sure what Gyro is doing. 10-ish more minutes, says Zippy. So Gyro's hoping that it's going to clear up sooner rather than later. But by the looks of it, I think Gyro is just going to have to stop or get absolutely swamped by everyone running the Inters. And it could be a bit of a dangerous restart if that's what's going to happen here. We've got 16 and a half laps left to go in this race. Mr. Chris leads the Grand Prix over the two Red Bulls, but he has that 3-second time penalty. And what did I say about safety cars? And those penalties coming back to bite him. That's exactly what could happen here. He opened up a big enough gap to compensate for it to the Red Bulls, but the safety cars come in. Gyro's finally decided enough is enough, and he's into the pits. But a lap too late, and he's going to drop all the way to the back of the pack, even under the safety car. I think he'll be 13th, just behind Frisk Fruit. We'll see. Into the pits he goes. Intermediate tyres, as you'd expect. And out the pits. Bumdy gets a 3-second time penalty under the safety car for track limits, which is not ideal for him. And 13th it is indeed for Gyro as he exits the pit lane. But thank you for that info, Zippy. That's very good to know. 10-ish more minutes of rain. So this could stop before the end and we could get back onto the slick tyres. It would most likely be softs to the end of the race if that happens, but very interesting strategy call around here. I've had a race around here once where it rained right towards the end, and there was one guy who stayed out on hard tyres. He started on the hards and went all the way. It was on F122. Went all the way, hoping for the rain to come as soon as possible. It came with about 3 or 4 laps left to go. He pitted for the Inters finally. Everyone else had to stay out because there was because he was leading. So there was no point in coming in. But he came in for the Inters and he caught up and overtook me for the win at the last corner as I was really struggling on the slicks. It was a thrilling race, probably one of the most thrilling races I've ever raced in. So this track can really giveth and taketh away, as it were, as I've seen many an incident around here and of also many an incredible race. So hopefully the last 14 and a half laps of this one produce the latter. But at the moment it is advantage Red Bull thanks to Mr. Chris's penalty. Let's take a look at some helmets we haven't seen yet. These three will have the same. I think Heine's actually changed his helmet from last season, if I remember rightly. Got the white background with some green and yellow. That's quite nice. Give that an 8. Jürgen has got the Williams theme with the Duracell battery colours. I'll give that a 7. In fact, I'll increase Heine to 8.5. That's a nice looking helmet, that. maybe even 9. Ricciardo, oh, that's a 10. Wonderful helmet for Ricciardo there. That's great stuff. But we can't gawk at people's helmets any longer because the safety car is coming into the pits. 22 laps have been completed of this circuit at the end of this one. And we're going to have 14 more before this race is over, and anything can happen. We've got a Williams in P4. We've got Mr. Chris leading the race from the 2 Red Bulls, but with Mr. Chris having a penalty. We've got TNK from 4th to last to 6th in this race. What a recovery he's had. But Mr. Chris has gone, and he's caught Heine napping at the penultimate corner. 7.5 tenths is the gap as they go across the line. Fantastic restart for the championship leader. And now all the way down towards turn 1 they go. Barcia already into the pits, must have taken damage at the restart. Probably hit the back of a car in front of him. That's a huge shame for the Haas driver. But now everyone hurtling down towards turn 3. Doesn't look like any moves are going to be made near the front, but SC and MF Boom are side by side going down towards the braking zone, and MF Boom nearly takes another victim there at turn 3, but just about avoids hitting the back of SC. TNK gets past Ricciardo in the meantime in the Mercedes. He's improving now up to P5 from last place. What an incredible recovery this is, but I really hope I haven't just cursed him, and he's now going to spin to the back as Frisk Fruit does exactly that at turn 4. He is onto the gravel and all the way to the back of the grid, and he's got no front wing either, so must have hit the back of someone, I think, and he's going to be trundling around hoping for another safety car now before the end of this race, and to be honest, he may well get one. MCL 3 tenths behind Ricciardo, gets a much better X out the last corner. A bit of a squirrely moment for the Ferrari as well, but MCL can't make the move as there's just so much more straight line speed on Ricciardo's car. That down towards turn 1, Ricciardo goes very deep, gets a 3-second time penalty, and now the 2 of them are even. MCL now with a much better overspeed as they head towards turn 3 thanks to that mistake from the Ferrari, and SC taking advantage as well down the inside of Ricciardo as they go side by side through turn 3, and SC makes 2 positions in 1 corner. What a move from the Aston Martin driver. There's contact between Ricciardo and MCL further back, and Ricciardo just about avoids the wall but takes out an advertising board in the process, but he's down to P10 now, and with that time penalty he's in a net P11 and out of the points, and it could be another pointless race for Ferrari. MCL now and Hugo going side by side, the Williams driver on the outside in the latter part of Sector 2, and towards the beginning of Sector 3 Jürgen gets a time penalty further ahead. But Hugo up to P7 now in that Williams. It's a fantastic day for Williams, this. Incredible from both of them, and with this rain they could be in for an incredible result here. P4 and P7 as it stands, but Hugo would gain a position or 2 thanks to the time penalties in front of him as it stands, but still a long way to go. If there is another safety car towards the end of this one, anyone without a time penalty is going to be in business here. As now Heine is losing time to the back of Mr. Chris, who just has the edge on these Red Bulls in these wet conditions. 2.2 seconds ahead. He's got that time penalty, so he does need to push and get further ahead of them, but SC up to P5 in the meantime, getting past TNK. His recovery undone a little bit as SC has a slide through turn 4, but it's not enough for TNK to mount a challenge on the exit. And he's going to have to live to fight another day. But he still does have that penalty, which he must have picked up recently, because I don't think he had one at the safety car restart. I might be completely wrong on that, as there looks like a big mistake for SC just ahead. I just about caught that in the foreground of the camera as he managed to catch it, but loses the position to TNK as a result. And now Heine with a 3-second time penalty, giving Mr. Chris a much better buffer from the Red Bulls than he had before. And now he can afford to lay off a little bit and avoid the spin. But he's still got to hope that there isn't a late safety car in this one, because Melvin has no penalty. His tyres are 3 laps older than the Alpine. But with a complete lack of penalty, if there's a safety car on lap 33 or 32 or 33, Melvin is in prime position to snatch this race win away from his teammate and Mr. Chris. As Jürgen, by the way, in the Williams is keeping up with the Red Bulls. He's only 1.7 seconds behind. Rain, they say, is the great equalizer, and he is proving it in that Williams. He's dropping back a little bit, but look at this. He's nearly 4 seconds ahead of the Mercedes of TNK, and SC goes off camera as he has another huge moment at the same corner. Manages to keep it out the wall, but has to go across the gravel. It rejoins the track. Is there anyone behind him? Luckily no, but he nearly bins it as he does rejoin. He's got to deal with this Alfa Romeo right behind him. The two Red Bulls swapping positions further ahead. I think that could have been team orders as Heine has the penalty. But Melvin gets a big slide out of turn one, which is not going to help his case in catching Mr. Chris. But I think definitely some team orders there at Red Bull. Heine's penalty, meaning that he can't challenge Mr. Chris for the win. But Melvin absolutely can. 3.3 seconds is the gap. Still 10 laps to go in this race. Long way to go. Hugo in the Williams in P6. Still 1.4 ahead of MCL now. He's pulling away from the Alpine driver. Jürgen isn't pulling away from TNK, but he's still keeping that gap at a modest level for now. But it will come down in the next maybe 4 or 5 laps or so, I would have thought. But both Williams absolutely incredible today. MF Boom just ahead of Gyro in the meantime, who's doing well in the AlphaTauri as well. It would be important points for his team if he can stay where he is. Especially after he stayed out on those hards for so long. SC into the pits. There must be damage to the Aston Martin. It's a disastrous day for the British Racing Green outfit. Into the pits he comes. Is there a new front wing waiting for him? We're about to find out as he peels into the pit box. There isn't a new front wing waiting for him. There's soft tyres waiting for him. He's gone onto the slicks. Bondy and Frisroot have done the same. They think the rain has calmed down enough. It has indeed stopped. The track still looks a bit damp, but maybe there's enough of a dry line for it to be worth it. And there is more drama in this Grand Prix. The rain is worn off. It's about to be dry weather for the slick tyres. Flop gets another penalty. I think that's his third of the day in the AlphaTauri, down in 13th. But Mr. Chris, indeed, into the pits he comes. DRS is enabled. And I think SC has got that spot on, actually. He's come in a lap earlier than most people. Bumdy and Frisroot getting the jump as well. But I think SC has gotten it spot on. Melvin into the pits too, but Heine staying out to avoid the double stack, and I think the Red Bulls should have done that 1 lap ago. They should have had one of them come in on lap 27. They didn't. And now Melvin stops for the soft tyres, and I would have thought he'd be faster than Mr. Chris in the dry conditions. It certainly looked at the start of this race. Ricciardo is going to exit turn 1 just side by side with the Red Bull, in fact, as they go down towards turn 3. But Ricciardo's still on the inters. It does look dry enough out there for the slicks, but Melvin's going to be forced onto the wet line down towards turn 1, but it doesn't matter. He gets the move done as MF Boom gets overtaken by Gyro further up. Gyro into third place. He's onto the podium in his AlphaTauri. It's not going to last, of course. They've all got to pit, but must be a good feeling to be up there in P3. TNK and Heine have both stayed out. They're going to have to come in this lap, but of course around here in Austria's MF Boom's gone. He's round at turn 6, and he's going to have to come in for sure this lap now for a new set of the slick tyres. But his day has gone from it's been a bit of a roller coaster, this race, for MF Boom. I think it's safe to say. I think you'll agree on that one. The top 3 all into the pits for slicks, but where's Heine going to come out? He's just exiting the pit lane now as Mr. Chris gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. He's pitted again. Is there a new front wing? There is! There's damage to Mr. Chris, and he's going to be absolutely furious. This win has slipped out of his hands. On lap 30 of 36, he's had to stop again. Melvin and Heine now 1 and 2 again. Heine 2.7 seconds behind with the time penalty, nearly 7 seconds ahead of TNK, and it looks like what it was going to be a heavy defeat for Red Bull, with Mr. Chris finishing ahead of both of them. It's suddenly going to turn into a dream as they're running 1 and 2. Gyro and MCL side by side, but only because MCL went wide on those 6-lap old and medium tyres. He's pitted for old mediums, that's why he has not been out on those mediums for 6 laps. After the last pit stop. Mr. Chris already making moves. He's back up to P8, but he's got a lot more work to do in these last 6.5 laps. Oh, he's going to be absolutely fuming in that cockpit. I know exactly how he feels. He is not going to be a happy bunny, but for now, he's just got to get his head down and salvage as many points as he can. I think Melvin's going to retake the championship lead here, but it is still very early doors in this 12-race championship. It's only round 3, but nonetheless, if he loses this championship by just a few points by the end, he is going to think back on races like this one, where it all could have gone so much better. DRS now open on the outside of the Williams of Jürgen, and what has happened to Hugo? He's down in P15. He was up there in 4th, I think 4th or 5th, before the slick tyres came out. Now he's in 15th. I want to know what's happened to him. That is so unfortunate. He was running so well, looking like he was going to get a top 5 finish. So was Jürgen, but as soon as these slick tyres have come out, suddenly the Williams snap back to reality, unfortunately, the pace of their car. But even so, I don't think the fall, quite that much of a fall. He got stuck behind Jürgen. Jürgen had a 15-second pit stop. Oh my goodness me, that is so unfortunate for the Williams drivers. That's so undeserved as well. They have had an amazing performance today, and it's all come unstuck at the end, thanks to a bit of a botch in the pit lane. But Mr. Chris still chasing. He's now got his teammate ahead of him, and I don't think MCL will make his life too difficult. Then it'll be Gyro just ahead. Which again, I don't think will be too hard, but then a 3.5 second gap to SC. I think that may be a step too far. Let's have a look at penalties. SC though with 6 seconds of penalties, but Mr. Chris has got 8 because of that pit lane speeding penalty as well. I forgot about that. So he's got even more work to do in that Alpine to salvage as much as he can from this one. But as it stands, he would finish down in P9 because he dropped behind Hotline and Steph. Melvin sets the fastest lap. It's going to be looks like it's going to be a 26-point weekend for him after all of that, which is, well, what champions do. They find results out of nowhere, or it looks like they're not going to get the result. They somehow find it. Mr. Chris gets the exit of dreams out that last corner as Jürgen gets up to 12 seconds of penalties and Hotline Blang up to 3 seconds. Now only 3 drivers left on the grid without a penalty. That's Steph, in fact the 2 Hasses, Steph and Bardia, and Melvin, of course, who is leading this race. Steph now under pressure from MF Boom, but he's still in a fantastic position to get some very well-earned points for Haas after they qualified. I think it was 18th and 20th it might have been. So if he can get some points from this, there would be a stunning drive, as Gyro now is the next victim of Mr. Chris. Who should be able to pull the 3 seconds needed, and I think should be able to pull the 5 on MCL as well. So I think P5 is probably the best he's going to get here. Heine now, though, setting the fastest lap and chasing after his teammate in that Red Bull. It's less than a second now between the two. Does he have DRS? No, he doesn't. But he has a lot less ERS as well, so Heine is going to need a mistake from his teammate, especially with that 3-second time penalty he's got. But the 2 Red Bulls now, very, very comfortable race they're leading. It certainly didn't look it about 6 or 7 laps ago. MF Boom now getting the move done on Hotline Blang up to P9. The Alfa Romeo could struggle to stay in the points here, although with Jürgen on those 12 seconds of penalties, it might not matter after all, as they go side by side again at turn 3, and he's going to get the better exit on the outside. Heine gets 6 seconds of penalties now, so there goes his chances of the win, if he had any to begin with. As now Steph putting MF Boom under pressure. Up to P10 goes the Haas on no penalties. He's going to jump up to P8 as it stands. What a great result that would be. Still a couple of laps to go in this one, but Steph really showing what can be done in a chaotic race. It doesn't matter if you have a bad car, anything can happen. The Williams were showing that until it all went wrong at the pit stops. They were going to have a fantastic double points finish, but it wasn't to be in the end. But Steph looking very, very strong in that Haas at the moment, as Heine has in fact now caught up to Melvin. He's right behind him, 4 tenths between them, and well, I wonder if we're going to see any teammate drama. I know Melvin and Heine are good friends, so I wouldn't imagine they'd make each other's lives too difficult, but maybe they're going to want to fight each other for a bit of fun at the end and accidentally take each other out, who knows, but we're going to follow along with them just to find out as they go on to the final lap of the Austrian Grand Prix, 36th tour of the Red Bull Ring. Melvin is going to drop to the inside and let Heine through. He doesn't need to fight him. Ricciardo's retired on the final lap at turn 4 on the exit, but he was out of the points anyway, I believe, as Heine now leads from Melvin, who just basically let him through into turn 1, and I think he's just going to sit behind his teammate and win the race after penalties. I know, with those 6 seconds. TNK, though, what a drive he's had from the back of the grid after his disastrous lap 1. MF Boom getting past Jürgen further back, and SC being overtaken by Mr. Chris in the meantime. And if Mr. Chris can pull 2 seconds in 2 sectors, then he can managed to snatch P4 out of this one, but SC isn't going to let it go that easily. He's right behind him still, but it's going to be Heine coming round the final few corners now in that Red Bull. It's a 1-2 for the championship leaders, and it's Heine who leads the race across the line, but it's Melvin, the defending champion, who wins the Austrian Grand Prix, his 2nd win of the season, back to form after the disaster that was Jeddah last week. TNK with an incredible drive to P3. Mr. Chris comes across the line. He gets another time penalty, trying desperately to pull those that time to SC, and it might even drop him to P6 here. Gyro could manage to get in the top 5. He does! Gyro, what a drive from him, but no, MCL pips both of them in the end up to P5, and Gyro drops to P6, but Mr. Chris in 7th, thanks to that extra penalty he got the final corner. He'll be kicking himself even more for that one. Steph finishes P8 in the Haas. Fantastic drive there, as MF Boom finishes 9th. Hotline Blang gets the final point of the day, and the 2 Williams agonizingly finish 11th and 12th after all of that. Whoa, what a race. I mean, I know who my driver of the day is, not a shadow of a doubt it's TNK. SC gets it from the game, but TNK from 4th to last, all the way back up to 3rd again to finish on the podium. What a fantastic drive from the Portuguese. But it's all about Melvin. The defending champion wins again here in Austria, as his closest championship rival, the former championship leader before today, falls to P7 after a disastrous final stint. But it's a 1-2 for Red Bull. It's Melvin's day once again. It's a 3rd podium in a row for Heine. The only driver, I believe, to finish on the podium all 3 races so far this season. So he's putting in a great performance. Gyro did finish great as well in the AlphaTauri. That's a fantastic effort. But it is Melvin who wins the Austrian Grand Prix. Heine finishes in P2 to make it a 1-2 for Red Bull, and TNK with a masterful recovery back up to P3. SC up there in P4. That's a great finish for him, actually. in the Aston Martin as well. MCL finishes in the top 5 in the end, with Gyro in the AlphaTauri from 18th on the grid finishes P6. Incredible drive from him, as well as Steph in P8 from 19th on the grid. What a drive from both of them in tractors of cars, it has to be said. Mr. Chris finishes a very disappointing P7, with MF Boom and Hotline Blang making up the rest of the points, with Hugo and Jurgen, the two Williams, going to be gutted to both finish out the points in the end. And then Bundy, Bartya, Flop, Frisfoot and Ricardo, the last of the finishers, or the classified drivers. And then 3 DNFs in the end. Well, that was a fantastic race. I hope you all enjoyed the stream. And if you're watching it back, I hope you enjoyed as well. Thank you to everyone for watching. Please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already to my channel. I really do appreciate it if you enjoy my commentary. I upload all my commentary and occasionally some variety content in here as well. You'll notice a few videos of different games trickled in every so often, but all my commentary goes here. Unless instructed otherwise. And talking of instructed otherwise, I couldn't stream on the DLR channel today for technical reasons. But please go and make sure to go to their Twitch channel. It is DLR _TTV _official for all their content. Usually these races are streamed there, but today I had to do it here. But yeah, please make sure you go and follow the DLR Twitch channel as well. Be much appreciated by the DLR community. So thank you all very much for watching. Hope you have a lovely weekend, and hope you enjoyed the DLR Realistic Division Round 3 in Austria. We'll be back next week, and have a lovely rest of your night, and goodbye.